Hello and welcome everyone to the show today. My name is Alan Young. I'm with Hospitality Net, and I am tickled pink to have with me today Aaron Shepard. Aaron's joining us as part of the HITEC TV initiative in partnership with HFTP, so we can tell more people about all the amazing stuff that's going to be happening around HITEC, during HITEC, and talk to some of the thought leaders out there. And Aaron is definitely one of them. Aaron Shepard is the CEO and co-founder of Above Property. Aaron and I have known each other for quite some time, and it's a pleasure, Aaron. And I think people will be surprised at your background, but I would love you to start off by obviously saying hello, but then talking to people about your background, where you've come from, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me today, Alan. I really appreciate the time. I've been building travel-related systems for the last 30 plus years. Started out my career with a little company called Executive Technologies. We migrated several large chains onto our platform, including Best Western and Sandals Resorts. We were then acquired by Fidelio, which was then acquired by Micros, and was one of the key people here in Naples, Florida, that started the migration from Fidelio onto Micros Opera. After that, I started another company called GuestClick. GuestClick was TravelClick was an investor in GuestClick, and it was sort of the next generation at the time. This is in the 2000 timeframe. And again, we rolled out our products to a number of sort of high-end systems, including Best Western, relaunched Mobile Travel Guide, things like that. We created a company called Vacation Click, which we sold to HomeAway. And then we went
small little company, right?
Small little company, right? And went on and sold GuestClick to Pegasus. I was the CIO at Pegasus for a few years. Was planning on retiring, and then I got pulled back in to work with HP and American Airlines on their Jetstream project. Once that project was finished, we moved on to starting up Above Property, and
now you're smack dab in the middle of it. And Above Property has been going for about 7 or 8 years, I think, all in all.
Yeah, we started October 2012,
right.
And took about a little over a year to get the design redone from the ground up. So we basically said we have to start all over again. Technology's moved on. Right? We're not going to use relational databases. We're not going to use traditional ways of building the systems. And we did that because traditionally, hotel systems and travel systems can't scale, right? They have a really tough time scaling. They have a really tough time kind of breaking out of the mold. So you never see hotel systems that are also running rental car companies. They're also running airline companies, right? It doesn't work that way. And so we had to start over again from scratch. And that's what we did with Above Property, and collapse down all of the different silos, central reservations, property management, revenue management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Put them all together into a big collection of services.
And so, you came to this, idea through seeing a lot of things in your past, obviously. And so, the hotel and travel industry, we've done some amazing things, but we've also fallen down every once in a while and dusted ourselves and picked ourselves up. But what have you seen in the past that you would say has been kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the fantastic?
Let's start with the bad and the worst. There's kind of two main themes there. One is that, the hotels in general are very willing to do sort of those guest-facing upgrades. They go in and they, remodel the lobby. They put in, flat screen TVs. They upgrade linens. They do all kinds of, very important things for their guests. But they don't typically spend a lot of money and time and energy on the travel technology side of things. And traditionally that's been done because travel companies, hotel companies, rental car companies look at technology as a cost of doing business. as opposed to a driver of business and a driver of demand. And so that's been kind of the bad news for the last 30 years, is that
Right.
people have been doing a lot of that, right? And so that's why you see 30-year-old systems out there, right? The good side is that's changing. And you see that now. There's a lot of movement in the industry for large companies and small companies to revamp their technology, look at the technology as a mechanism for driving demand, driving profit, right? When you do some interesting things like we've been doing lately, and you can revenue manage a little bit more closely as transactions occur, et cetera, you really can start to drive that profit side of things, right? And that's a good way for the technology to kind of intercede on the behalf of the business.
Yeah, no kidding. And, hoteliers at times, and this is no fault of their own, but they do look at things in a very short-term, realistic manner. And at times they tend to not necessarily understand the true cost and thus the profitability of what their business is doing. So you saw the industry having some issues, and I think you've built some property management systems in the past, and so then you think, okay, well, I've just finished working with American Airlines and others, and I've seen it all, but now I need to make a fix. Now I need to be able to deliver something to the market that's going to be scalable, because obviously we're on these silly devices 24/7, booking and looking. That's going to be flexible, that's going to meet the needs of not only the hotel industry, but maybe other verticals. What was your mindset when you said, okay, this is the problem I want to solve?
That's a good question. So the problem that I really wanted to solve at the very beginning was sort of twofold. Having been on the receiving end of RFPs for 30 years, and also having been on the side of things where I had to go in and prove that I could scale my solution to meet the demand. And so that was kind of the two main drivers, were flexibility and functionality, but then also speed and scalability. And so those were sort of the cornerstones. It took a long time to get the right technology pieces in place to be able to scale to basically internet scale, right? And we've done that. To be able to, I think at Focusrite in 2014, we announced that we had broken 100,000 transactions per second at a 50 millisecond response time, right? And we still live in that world today, right? And so what that means is, a normal hotel chain is, let's say, 4,000 transactions per second, right? When I was with my prior companies, we struggled to get even close to that, right, with sort of the traditional technology stack. And so we had to kind of reimagine all that. We had to reimagine, what does it mean in sort of that carrier grade technology stack, right? Like when you pick up your phone, it just works. When you flick on your light switch for your power, it just works, right? So they don't take scheduled downtime, right? In that world, you don't get those luxuries. You don't have that option. And so that's what we spent a lot of engineering time, a lot of capital, a lot of creative thought processes to go through and make it so that we can live in that sort of carrier grade world, right? Where we can be that power plant for hotels and travel companies.
Yeah, and not only do you need to be the power plant, but then you also need at times to be able to offer the different, solution sets that you do, whether it's revenue management or CRSs or true call center capabilities or a property management system. One of the things that I think would be interesting for the people that are viewing this session is you work with a fairly large rental car company, and you've developed what I believe is truly an innovative revenue management platform for them. Can you kind of go into that a little bit about how that's worked out without giving away all these wonderful secrets?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm precluded from saying who it is.
I know.
But we've
Yep.
been working for several years with a really, really large rental car company. And what we've done for them is we have put together a revenue management solution that can drive millions of cars. Okay. And when we did that, surprisingly, to me. We actually had done a pretty good job of our database design and how we put the things together. And so we're able to actually absorb all the traffic from all of their reservations and tickets, right, across their entire business line. And then we're able to take that and actually produce analytics and dashboards and all of this kind of revenue management tool set that you would normally need to be able to run your business. And we're doing that right now for that company worldwide.
And it's fairly dynamic, right? So that dovetails into my next question, which is, what are the verticals that Above Property is playing in right now? And which ones do you feel, I guess, would, have the most interest from the background perspective, but also have the most, I think, have the most opportunity. So what verticals do you play in currently in?
We primarily work, obviously, in hotels, right?
Yep.
And also in rental cars. We have plans to move into other verticals. When we went to move, before we built anything, before we did anything, we went in and said, okay, I just come off the American Airlines project. I had spent a lot of time in the vacation rental space with HomeAway. And so when we went in to build this, we said, when we did Mobile Travel Guide, we actually moved all of their content over onto our platform at the time with GuestClick, and actually published 32 books out of the system. So content management was also a big thing. Right. And so what we did is we kind of went in and just completely reimagined how we were going to store data, how we were going to process it, how we were going to transact against it, and keeping it so that we could handle those different kinds of transactions, right? Those different kinds of bookings and reservations and content and guests and travelers and itineraries and all those types of things. And we did all that in such a way that allowed us, when we did the migration onto our platform for this rental car company, I think we only had to add about 2 fields.
Wow.
Out of the thousands of tables and fields that we have in our system, we had to add 2 fields to make rental cars work, right? And so we're well positioned to go in and be able to go into other travel verticals. But right this minute, we've got our hands full with hotels and rental cars.
So let's get into the hotel world. So Above Property is an amazing solution that uses services in order to scale. And I think one of the things that we need to understand is, that API landscape and how that all works into your vision. Because my background and your background and others in your company are distribution oriented or hotel technology oriented. And one of the challenges we always had was connecting to stuff. And there were many associations that died on the vine trying to do just that. So it really has become the onus of the technology provider to try to fix that world for their clients. And Above Property, from what I've seen, has the capability to do some pretty amazing things with your API landscape. Can you kind of talk about that and how that all revolves around the ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So Above Property's sort of flagship product is Above Property Services, APS.
Right.
APS has thousands or well over 1,000. I think it's 12 or 1,300 at this point. Different API endpoints, and we kind of categorize those endpoints into the microservices, and then domain services, composite services, and then finally application level services. So an application level service is like the set of services that are needed for call center, or the set of services that are needed for property management. Okay. And so what we do is we have this wide variety of really deep functionality from a service layer perspective. What does that mean to hoteliers? What that means is that if you wanted to have your own website for a booking engine, you already have the APIs available to you. If you wanted to create your own front desk application, you have the APIs available to you, right? And so everything that you need to run your business, there are APIs that are already there for that. In addition to that, we support almost every version 2005 forward of Open Travel, the Open Travel spec, right? XML spec. And we also support all versions of HT&J. And so we already connect to just tons and tons of different, companies, other vendors, etc. We can live pretty much in any ecosystem that is out there. We're adding new connections all the time. I think we've got another 10 planned in the next 60 days. And so, from a systems perspective, we've built out all of the parts and pieces that are needed, all the Lego blocks that are needed to go either build your own solution or use our solution just kind of out of the gate.
Right. So that's fairly interesting. And market segmentation has always been a challenge when building technology. And from my perspective, it's been, okay, we've got to build this fully functional, massive gorilla in order to deal with a 5-star hotel property. We'll take some pieces of that and pull it over, and that'll be applicable for a extended stay property. And I think that's been the Achilles heel of a lot of technology providers. Do you care about market segment?
Not really. As I mentioned, we have these very, very large customers, right? And so where scale and, operational efficiency and all that type of stuff is really key. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the high-end luxury, full service properties, right? Down at that level, on the independent side of the equation, we have our product, which is called Hotel in a Box. Hotel in a Box is basically everything that you need to run your property. Okay, it includes everything you need. It has connectivity, it has call center, it has distribution, it has property management, it has maintenance and housekeeping, and all the parts and pieces that you need. We've developed a technology called Mercury, which is our little appliance that sits down at the property. You plug this thing in, and within a few hours, we can actually migrate your entire PMS over onto our system using another technology we have called Rosetta. And it allows you to go in and do that. The power of what we've built is that we've built this travel platform that has been set up from the beginning to be able to handle any kind of business model. So what the problem with a lot of technologies is you have to go in and you have to change the way you do business in order to fit into the box that is the technology, right, that works. And, across my whole career, that's basically been the mantra, right? It's and that's where people get into trouble, just as you mentioned, right? They built a box for a 4-star hotel, and unless you run your business like a 4-star hotel, guess what? It doesn't quite work right. So you have to go change how you do business in order to suffice. I mentioned RFPs. The reason that we have a lot of the features and functions and capabilities that we have and have built everything in such a way that it's all configurable is so that, it doesn't matter what the business model is, we're able to adapt to it.
So if we're looking at all those different market segments, and so there's not a pigeonhole. You can deal with everything. And then how does the modeling work from what's this? I'm going to ask every question every hotelier is going to ask you. How does this going to work? How much is going to cost? Why is this innovative? All of these things, and why do I need to migrate off of this platform that I've had for 10 years? It seems to be working fine, and everybody at the hotel likes it. So how do you get to those discussions, and what are some of the answers?
It's kind of twofold, right? The first is, what's innovative about this, right? Well, what's innovative about this is a couple things. One is that for the very large customers, they want the flexibility to be able to access their data via APIs. They may already have a front desk application that they've already trained thousands and thousands of people on. So they don't want to have to go retrain everybody. On the other side of the spectrum, where you've got your independent hotel, and they have been running the same system for the last 15 years. Thank you very much. But guess what? Every few years, you got to buy new hardware. Every few years, you have to get new training. Every few years, you have to go in and that old Oki data printer doesn't work anymore. I need a new printer for that, right? Or I want to do my stay 4 nights, get the 4th night free, right? And I want to push that out to Expedia, or whatever. I can't. Right? I don't have the flexibility. I've got to manage. In one of these hotels that we replaced over the COVID time period, we replaced 8 separate systems.
Wow.
8 separate systems. And so the poor manager at this hotel, brilliant guy, super nice guy, but he spent a big chunk of his time just managing contracts and managing data flows between those applications. My revenue management system didn't get my update for my PMS, and therefore all my rates are wrong. And therefore, it didn't get pushed up to the distribution channels correctly because this application needed a version upgrade. And I had to come in at 10 o'clock at night to do a database upgrade on my machine that's sitting under my desk, who the clerk kicked the power cord out. And all of a sudden my whole hotel went down. All that goes away. All of that noise just goes away, and you don't need it anymore.
Right. And it's so true. My wife, who's from the hotel IT space, I remember being up at 2 o'clock in the morning with her when exactly that would happen. Somebody would unplug something, or something would just need to be rebooted. It was not that difficult, but still it was infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been doing this for a long time. What keeps your passion level high? What keeps you excited about what's going on in our industry? And I talked to some people earlier on today, and they were expressing a extreme amount of excitement about what's going on in our industry because of the fact that we're having to change things around and figure out how to do things better. But what keeps you going, rather than the question, which is usually what keeps you up at night, but what keeps you going?
That's a good question. I've been doing this for surprisingly a super long time.
I know.
As a lot of people know, I have had a career of building up a company, selling it to a big player, moving on to the next one, building up a company, moving on to the next one. At each of those junctures, I actually went through and I kind of reinvented how to build these systems, right? So when we first did back in executive technologies, it was all client server Oracle, right? When we went on and built GuestClick, it was all web server Oracle, right? And then when we built above property, we've built it out in such a way that we don't use any of those technologies anymore. And it's the pace of change that's exciting. It's the fact that we now have a platform at above property that can basically run the whole entire travel industry. I mean, it is literally scalable to that level. That's exciting to me. We went into these two hotels during the COVID time period, did their upgrades, got them off of their legacy systems. And believe it or not, they had the best year that they have had in the history of their hotels. Now, part of that is just that they're destination hotels, right? But part of it is the fact that they're able to manage their rate via our revenue management tools. And in the case of this, one of the hotels manage their marina, manage their owners, right? They're able to do all that in one place without having to jump around to a bunch of different systems to make all that work. And so that's exciting to me. The satisfaction that I get from taking these older systems, getting them migrated. I've migrated well over 20,000 hotels onto my platforms over the years. And the reality of it is that it continues to excite me. It continues to make things fun, and we'll keep going.
So with that, what do you think is the future holds for our industry? We've been through a fairly traumatic period, and with a great deal of stuff going on technologically, relationship wise, you name it, of people, or how we're managing our day-to-day business. What do you see within the next 12 to 18 months? Do you see any more massive changes coming about?
I do. I do. I think that the hotel industry and other industries, travel verticals, have realized that changing out the technology base of their companies is a good way to drive more revenue. And I see a bunch of changes coming. From our perspective, we've spent the last 8 years building our rocket ship, right? And now we're getting passengers onto that rocket ship. We've got a couple, really big passengers already, and also some, to your point, very complicated full-service hotels on the platform. We've migrated using our Rosetta technology off of a couple of the biggest industry players that are out there. And so we see a period of very rapid growth over the next 12 to 18 months.
And how do you scale that? No, not technologically, but people. Because when we first met with Above Property, like 9 years ago, it was just you and a few folks. Obviously, you've grown your team. How do you take what you've got human resource infrastructure wise, and then if you do get this massive amount of business, how are you going to take it to the next level people wise?
That's a good point. The reality of it is a lot of really good technologists have left the hotel industry. Mm-hmm. We have very deep relationships with a number of players in the industry that have a pretty deep talent pool. We migrated a 1,400 hotel chain at the same time that we migrated one of the largest rental car companies in the world onto our platform, all within 18 months. And so we've got a really, really strong automation-driven technology base that we're building upon. We've only got 22 people in our company.
Wow.
Right. And so it's been one of these things where, as one of the guys on our team is ex-Special Forces, and he said, you know what, we have a Special Forces team. We got really smart people, we got really smart technology, and we've got a set of talent that we can draw into as we start to expand.
So that kind of, my next question is, obviously process, right? As soon as you do that, you can automate and get things rolling, going incredibly well. When we look towards the next step, where would you like to play? Would you like to play in every market segment? Is there one that you think is most opportunistic for you, or are you willing to open up the doors to all comers, so to speak?
That's a good question. I mean, it is tough, right, to choose when you do have the option, right? It's tough to go in and say, okay, well, we're going to go do this, we're going to do that. Up until now, we've been very opportunistic about what we choose to go do. We see kind of two main focuses, which is, again, should only have one, but we have two. One is on the very high end, the platform play, right? Where we've got this big power plant machine that just runs 100% of the time, and it's super fast and scalable, and you don't have to worry about buying your own hardware, and the buying an Oracle database rack server times 12 is no longer in the cards. So we see a lot of opportunity there. The other side of that coin is we also see a lot of opportunity with hotel in a box. Right. So we have some recent wins in that world that we're going to be announcing soon, and getting that sort of into a well-oiled machine as far from a migration and from a rollout perspective is one of our focuses as well.
Very cool. So we're just coming to the end of our time. Is there anything you want to say in conclusion to kind of wrap up, what you're looking at in the next 12 to 18 months and what your plan is?
I think the thing that people should take away is that there is now a solution in the marketplace that allows you to mix and match and choose what kind of power you want to draw from, right? So whether it's central reservations or property management or revenue management or anything in between, they're the above property solution, the above property services allows for hoteliers to replace the parts and pieces that they need to, right, to be more competitive. And we're available and ready to get started.
Awesome. Aaron, for those who don't really know you, you are an industry icon in my humble estimation. I've watched your career from afar, and I'm just incredibly pleased to be interviewing you here. And I wish you all the success in the future.
Great. Thanks again for having me, Alan. Again, like you said, we've known each other for a super long time, so I'm excited about having this interview as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron, and we'll see you in Dallas.
Oh, yeah, we'll see you in Dallas.
All right.
Okay.